Hi everyone, in this video we're taking a look at what happens in your first driving lesson. What must your instructor be doing, whether you're a complete beginner or an experienced driver. I'm going to go over the 4 different types of people you can have as an instructor. Now I'd like to quickly point out this video is just going to be me sitting here talking. If you want to see me actually doing all of this, I have many videos on my channel going back for years showing you me doing lessons with all types of ability of people. But let's start by looking at what the 4 types of people are. Now these are laid out by the DVSA, so if your driving instructor is teaching properly, this is what they must be doing. Notice I'm not saying what they should be doing, it's what they must be doing. So this is not my opinion. And this is what's laid out by the DVSA. And when driving instructors have what's called a standards check, which is when an examiner from the DVSA sits in the back of the car and watches you teaching for 45 minutes. This is what they're looking for. So if you don't apply these rules, you won't be working as an instructor for much longer. So the 4 types of learner that you get are 4 types of people, I should say. A complete beginner. So that's someone who's never had lessons before at all, partly trained, fully trained, and full license holder, what we call an FLH, a full license holder. So let's look at each one of those in turn and see what you must be being taught by your instructor. So let's start with a complete beginner, someone who's got no experience, never driven before, never even sat in the driving seat before. One of the most important things I would like to stress is that there is a lot of talking in that lesson like there is in this video. And the point of this is that if you talk a lot in the first lesson, that will allow you to get all the basics settled in your mind. You can then fly through the rest of your lessons and you can pass more quickly. Now, this is where people often go wrong, because I've had some people over the years who have left comments on my videos saying things like, I wouldn't learn with you, you talk too much, you'll just stand there, talk, I want to get driving, it's obvious you just hold people back to make more money off them. No, that's the complete opposite of what I do, because by talking to people at the beginning, they will then fly through the lessons because they understand what they're doing. Rather than in each lesson, you having to get nowhere and you're saying, okay, let's do this, but I can't do this yet, because you've skipped over the basics and you've wasted the pupil's time in an effort to get them driving and get on the road. And I was trying this when I worked at a large driving school. They taught me on your first lesson, always get the people driving and get them to do things their friends haven't with other instructors. Get them reversing around the corner in the first lesson and you'll look really good. It's a sales gimmick. It's the way that you're made to think, oh, this instructor's great, they're going to get me driving in no time, when the complete opposite is true. And this is proven by the standards check. Now, it used to be called a check test. And when it was called a check test, what used to happen is, I won't bore you with all this, but there are pages on my website about this. There are 3 tests you pass to become a driving instructor. There are actually 4, but hardly anyone knows about the 4th one, ADI 4. So, ADI 1 is when you have to do an advanced theory test, ADI 2 is when you do an advanced driving test, and ADI 3 is proving you can teach. Now that used to be done by teaching an examiner, and the examiner would role play a pupil. And you'd be given one of 10 combinations of topics to teach. And one of those combinations was to teach controls. So it was the first ever lesson, the examiner will sit there, a highly experienced advanced driver, would sit there pretending that they couldn't drive, which is quite funny. And in that lesson, one of the things they did was time how long you spent talking about the car controls. And if you spent any less than about 15 to 20 minutes, you weren't going to pass. This is what I mean about it's not just my opinion. This is what examiners look for in instructors. You must be talking about the car controls. So you'll meet your instructor and there are things you need to do before you've even met them, which I've covered in another video. If you watched a video called Signs of a Bad Driving Instructor, I'll go over things I must have done before you've even met them that many instructors haven't done. So you go over the car controls and you'll be talking about things like, what are the pedals? What does each one do? Not just, accelerator, brake, clutch. What does each one do? Which foot do you operate each one with? And if you're thinking, that's obvious, you'd be a bad instructor. If you ever think, that's obvious, it's only obvious to you, not to other people. I've had a pupil once, I only had it once, but I had a pupil. And when I said to them, pressing the pedals, they thought you had to press the pedals with your hands. And they were going like this, and they said, I can't reach the pedals. Now that might sound funny, but that's a learner. They didn't know that you had to press the pedals with your feet. And if you think, I'm making it up, I'm not. I remember the people, I remember where we were, and we both laughed about it, and I said, sorry, that was a bit stupid. They were thinking that to press the pedals with their hands. Never assume anything, because to assume is to make an ass of you and me. And that means if you take the word assume, it looks like split into 3 separate parts. Ass, you, me. So if you assume something, you make an ass of you and me, which means you can make yourself look silly by assuming things. So a bad instructor will just assume that the people knows things. You've got to be taught everything. So the pedals, which foot do you press them with? What does it do? What does the clutch do? If you haven't been shown a diagram of the clutch plates, and I'll do it now, I've done this diagram thousands of times. I've been working in this industry since 1998, so that's how long I've been doing this. So if you have a diagram that looks something like this, I hope you can see this on the camera, because I don't know how it's going to focus on this. See if I can see what you can see on the camera. If I can just wipe that screen up. It's a bit hard to do, there you go. So that's your clutch, when your clutch is up and when your clutch is down. And the clutch is a mechanism that connects your engine to your tyres. And there is a part in the middle called a biting point, like that stripy area is the biting point. If you're not being shown that diagram, and it's incredible how many learners haven't been shown that, and mechanics will scoff and say, it doesn't look anything like that. That's not the point. The point is, learners need to know what the clutch is. If you can visualise the clutch rising to the biting point, and then you've got something like that to use as a reference, that's how you teach someone to drive. What you don't do in the first lesson is just what a lot of instructors do to make themselves look impressive and get loads of views. Jump in the car, this is what you do. So what you got to do, press that pedal down, turn on. Now you just lift it up a bit. Yeah, it's your driving out, it's easy. See, you're friends with instructors who are taking hours to do this. You're learning with me straight away. No. That's a rubbish instructor who's just jumped straight in because they can't be bothered to do it or they don't know what they're doing. You have to go through the car controls. So the wheel, how do you hold the wheel? What are the buttons for on the wheel? What does this do? What does that do? What's this button do? What's this gear stick for? And you don't assume anything. You need to go over everything in granular detail. If you do that, you will fly through driving lessons in no time, which is what a lot of my pupils pass in way under the average amount of time, because you take your time at the beginning to speak and learn things, then the pupil can develop that into their own skill. So if you've taught somebody well, you don't have to teach them how to do roundabouts, how to do crossroads, how to park a car. You don't teach topics when you're a good instructor, and that will baffle many instructors. Lots of instructors, if you say, I want you to teach me without teaching me topics. What? How? How do I do that? I've got to teach you roundabouts and crossroads. No. You don't have to. If you know what you're really doing, you don't have to teach topics. You see, you teach people to handle a car, what the controls are. You teach them how to drive a car, and you can work out the topics for yourself. Right? That's something for another video. And I would like to quickly point out, I am thinking of making a whole series of videos, because a lot of my videos are now very old. They're still very good, very relevant and true. Sorry, it's a bit cold in here. But I am thinking of remaking my videos. The problem is this camera I've got overheats after about half an hour, but it's so cold at the moment, it's getting quite chilly. It's coming up to late September. The camera shouldn't overheat, although it still did in one lesson I filmed. So that's a complete beginner. before you even do that lesson, I say you must have had things checked, like your driving licence must have been checked online. Your instructor must do an eyesight check. If they're not getting you to read a car number plate from the required distance, and then they just go straight into driving, it's wrong. I had someone recently who just came to me for lessons, and they said they wanted to begin, and I said, I didn't hiccup. I said, can I check your licence online? And they said, oh, sorry, I didn't know you needed a provisional licence. That's why we do the checks. Many people out there right now are taking driving lessons illegally because the instructor doesn't know what they're doing or hasn't bothered to take precautions. And it does happen where learners get caught driving without even knowing. They've got no insurance because they've got no licence, which means they're not insured. The instructor's not insured. The people get 6 points on licence, which means they've effectively lost it before they even got it. The full one. The instructor gets 6 points because they're driving without insurance. They've just lost a job and the business and their income and a house. I hope it was worth skipping over those precautions that you must have done. Anyway, sorry this video is rambling a bit, but I want to give you as many hints and tips as I can, not just a boring, this is how to do it. I want to make this series of videos, if I make any more, different. That's a complete beginner. There's tons more I could say. I could do a whole video on that. Or maybe teach a beginner again from the beginning to show you this. It's been 9 years since I taught someone to drive from start to finish on video. What about the next kind of people? The next one is someone who's partly trained. So someone who has had some driving lessons before, but they maybe have had like 10 to 20 hours. Those people, if you're one of those people, your instructor must be careful and check that you know things like why to leave your car parked in gear. Notice you parked in gear. In the years I've been teaching over 1,000 people to drive, I think I've had 2 at most who have been taught to leave a car parked in gear. I'll tell you what, when a pupil comes to me from other schools, I often blow their instructors apart. Because in the first 20 minutes, I don't say stuff like your instructor was rubbish. I just ask them questions. Why'd you leave your car parked in gear? Oh, he never taught me that. Can you read that car number plate? Why are you asking me to do that? Well, it's the eyesight check your last instructor did, right? No, they never did that. They never checked my licence like you did either. Right, if you're a partly trained pupil, you often have to go back to the beginning because I would say at least 90% of driving instructors don't know what they're doing. That's for another video. I've already done videos on that. But many instructors are terrible. They just don't know what they're doing. They often don't stay in the job long because they fail the first standards check within a couple of years and they just don't last. But if you're a partly trained pupil, sometimes it can be good and you can kind of skip some of the things if you're sure that they've been taught properly. But in most instances, you have to go, not from the very beginning, but you have to go and relearn things that you've missed. Then you get the third type, which is someone who's a test standard. Now that is a bit of a joke because again, in the years I've been teaching, well over 20 years, I don't think I've had one pupil, I think, who came to me at test standard, who was actually a test standard. Most of the people who come to me, if not all of them, 99% plus, who have had a driving test booked and then the instructor has vanished because they were rubbish and then you weren't going to pass. They don't know anything. It's just incredible. I've mentioned this in other videos. I've had people come to me who have got a driving test booked a month away and their instructor has vanished because they know they're never going to pass, they know they're not teaching properly. A lot of instructors out there will just take people on, teach them, take the money, and then they'll vanish. As soon as your test comes up, don't answer the phone, don't answer the text, don't answer the email, they just vanish because they just take your money and never do tests. It's unbelievable the low standards people are. I've had people come to me who are apparently ready for a driving test and they don't even know how to turn the car on. And it's not because they haven't had a push button start before. They don't know how to turn the car on. They're like this. They're like, okay. Or sorry, my instructor normally does this for me. Your instructor normally turns the car on for you. And you've got a driving test next month. It's unbelievable the level that people are at that I see who have got a driving test booked. They can't even move off. They turn the car on, not because it's a new car. They can't even move off. They're like this. They're just, you haven't put your seatbelt on. Oh, they haven't got a belt on. And they're moving off and they're not doing the blind spot. They know nothing because they've been to low quality, what I often call social media driving instructors. Yes, I know I'm on social media, but some instructors on social media are just terrible. I made a video about this not long ago about the falling standards of instructors on social media. Some social media instructors are just in it for the views. Oh, look at me, worst crash ever, biggest crash ever, worst learner, we nearly killed someone on a driving lesson. Rubbish instructor. Doing it for the views, exaggerating things to get views, to make money, because they're rubbish. And sadly, a lot of people think they're good. Oh, this instructor's brilliant, they're getting loads of views. They don't know what they're doing. And I'll tell you something now, a lot of examiners don't like social media. And I know that from talking to them. And I've had examiners, and I've said to them, I'm not going to name these people, I've said, what do you think about that instructor online? And they just go, don't be fooled by social media driving instructors. Okay? Yes, I am on social media. I've been doing this for years before anyone else I know was on here. As I say, I've been doing it since May 2008. Don't be fooled by them. So this video is kind of going off topic, isn't it? It's kind of going off into a rant about things. but the point is that most people who come to me saying that they've got a driving test and they're ready for a test and they're a test standard, they're nowhere near test standard. They're not even ready to be doing a mock test, never mind a real test. So if you are at that standard, don't be surprised if a good instructor grills you. They'll be asking you things like, oh, are you ready for a test? No, I'll be asking you the basics. Why'd you leave your car parked in gear? I don't know. Sorry for the hiccups. Why do you have to put your handbrake on before you select neutral? Oh, they never told me that. Why does it matter that you check that mirror after that mirror? Why can't you do that one and that one? Why must it be that one and that one? Oh, I don't know. They never told me that. Now, I'm not being awkward. My job as a good instructor is to pick at people's knowledge. And if you say to me, oh, I know why I leave your car parked in gear, it's because this. Oh, I know why your handbrake's done first, it's because this. Brilliant. You then go forward, and I don't hold people back. But my job is to check, have you been trained properly? And sadly, 99% of the time, the answer is no. Now let's look at the fourth type of pupil, which is the full licence holder. If you teach a full licence holder, it's similar to someone who's going for a test. Can you get the idea from this? What's the sort of message in this video? All four types of people are often the same due to poor instructors. I had somebody in our recently, not that long ago, quite recently, he's probably watching this, and they're a full licence holder, and they haven't driven for years, and they're very good. I was surprised. I even said to them, wow, yeah, you've actually been taught properly. And they told me, though, that they've been taught the thing about moving off without the gas. If you're being taught to move off with only the clutch. And they said to me, I saw your videos after I passed. I wondered why I kept stalling. And you explained it. Many instructors teach lift the clutch without the gas. Terrible teaching. Go and watch my videos on gas and clutch, which now must be 11 years old. I really want to redo all these videos, remake them with a modern 4K or whatever, before I no longer have a manual car. So the point of this video is, in your first driving lesson, you should be questioned a lot. Your instructor must be asking you lots of questions. Why do you leave your car in gear? Why does it matter if you hold the wheel 10 to 2, or does it not matter? You should be asked a lot of questions, and the point is, it doesn't really matter which level you're at. I will treat them all pretty much the same. You might think that sounds silly. That's because of my experience. I've had pupils, I remember someone who came to me, full licence holder, they wanted to drive to London the week after, and they said, I've got to drive to London next week, but I haven't driven for, I think it was several years after they passed the test. Didn't even know what the gear stick was. Couldn't even remember how to turn on. They were stalling. They were a complete beginner. They had to go right back to the beginning because they couldn't drive. yes, they've got a license, they couldn't drive. So yes, there are these official rules they give you, the DVSA, and in theory they're good, but in reality, pupils often fall well below those standards. So if you are a new instructor and you're turning up for a driving lesson with anyone, I would never assume anything. If they come out and say, oh, I've got a full license, doesn't mean a thing. I don't care because I want to assess you without the test, the license. Doesn't mean anything, right? I'm going to assess you properly, not just to these guidelines, which in theory make sense. In theory, someone who's got a full license would know how to drive, right? Not in reality. So your first driving lesson, you should be in a nice way grilled, and I do in a fun and friendly way. People often say to me, your lessons are really fun. I don't sit there and interrogate people, and I'm not shouting at people and being horrible with them. I just ask them, why'd you do this? What makes you do that? Do you know about this? What's that? And I question people, and in a way, I often make people realise they've been taught incorrectly. I don't sit there and say to people, like, your last instructor was rubbish. I ask them, and they often say to me, I don't think I've been trained properly. So that's the first in this series of videos, and I'm shivering like mad because it's so cold here now. So I'm going to end this video soon. But do let me know if you want to see more videos like this. And I've started this one off on a bit of a rant. I don't plan this, as I often say. I don't script videos. I don't script lessons. I don't script anything. I come out and do it through my knowledge and experience. I make it up as I go, because I'm not what you call a rail instructor. They sit on rails and there's no deviation. Everyone's taught the same way. They can't flex. They can't adapt. They'll never last as an instructor. I make it up as I go. I plan nothing for videos, for lessons. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'll turn up and I'll say, right, let's see what you can do. Ask a few questions. If they know that, I'll do that. If they don't know that, I'll do that. I'll make it all up as I go because of my experience. That's what a good instructor does. Not sit there reading a script like, hello, my name is John, and in today's lesson, not going to work. You've got to be flexible and adaptable. So, to summarise all of that, when you have your first driving lesson, expect to be, in a nice way, interrogated. In a nice way, to be asked lots of questions. And if you're a complete beginner, well then, you can still do that, because there are ways you can teach people to drive without telling them how to drive, as I've mentioned in the videos. You don't have to instruct people how to drive. That driving instructor is quite an old term now. You can teach people without telling them much at all. You can just ask them, and you can make people learn by asking them things. Check out my other videos on the screen now for more help. Let me know in the comments what videos you'd like to see from me, with pupils or without pupils or whatever. Thanks for watching. Check out my website, firstdrive.com. And as always, I'll see you again soon for more videos.